When you're ready, ladies.
Should medical marijuana be legalized throughout the United States? This is a question that has polarized political parties for the most recent century. Currently classified as a Schedule I drug, researchers and developers struggle to cross legal boundaries in order to defend its accessibility as states open up their legislatures.
We believe that medical marijuana should be reclassified from the Schedule I classification that it currently has to be legalized throughout the United States, which would benefit many with chronic illnesses.
By classifying marijuana as a Schedule I drug, its entire description becomes reduced to a drug with high potential for abuse and no currently accepted medical use. The federal law also makes it very difficult for medical trials to ensue. This has resulted in less potential for modern medicine breakthroughs.
Tetrahydrocannabinol, or more commonly known as THC, and cannabidiol, or CBD, are both active chemicals in the hemp plant. Recreational marijuana uses more THC than medical marijuana, which filters out THC and uses CBD. THC produces the high effect, which is when a person would get bloodshot eyes and the reaction time would slow down. THC is also an addictive component to recreational marijuana. CBD, unlike THC, is a non-addictive and it's a concentration from the hemp plant. So when it is used in medical marijuana, people can be calmer without drastically slowing down people's reaction time.
The United States federal government believes that marijuana should not be legalized because there are many other drugs that can do the same purpose. The government also has concerns surrounding packaging, administration, and potency levels of medical marijuana. If medical marijuana has the wrong potency levels, there could be many adverse effects on the user that would be similar to those with recreational marijuana.
There are also debates surrounding recreational versus medical use, ingestion methods, and child susceptibility. Child susceptibility is an area of concern as adolescent use may lead to schizophrenia, lowered cognitive ability, and a greater likelihood of dependency over time. Though these adverse effects may seem great, with a correct system and structure put in place, this would not be as much of an issue.
Looking at the brief history of medical marijuana. Medical marijuana was first used in China over 5 millennia ago when it was prescribed by the Emperor Shan Hun. From there, the plant traveled through the Middle East where it was used to make products like paper. In the 1830s, medical marijuana was used in India and prescribed by doctors against diseases and symptoms of diseases with vomiting and convulsions. When medical marijuana first entered the United States, it was used to make products like paper and parachutes, which were used in World War II. In 1910, recreational use of marijuana was introduced by Mexican immigrants. The United States legislation surrounding marijuana first started in 1937 when the Marijuana Tax Act was passed. This law was the first federal restriction placed on marijuana and stated that unless you were able to pay an additional tax on a product, marijuana possession was illegal. In the 1950s, the Bogs and Narcotics Control Acts were passed. These laws introduced jail times and fines for marijuana possession. In 1970, the Controlled Substance Act was passed. This law put marijuana under the Schedule I classification it currently has, stating that marijuana has no medical value and that research cannot be done. In 1989, the Anti-Drug Abuse Act was passed. This law further increased the consequences for possession that were earlier put in place by the Bogs and Narcotics Control Act. Also in 1989, President Bush declared war on drugs, giving speeches about the topic. These speeches introduced a national stigma surrounding marijuana and squashed any hope that marijuana had of being legalized at the time. In 1996, California became the first state to legalize medical marijuana usage under the Compassionate Use Act.
With over 2/3 of Americans in support of cannabis legislation today, its policies and accessibility varies throughout the United States. In a graphic composed by the State Conference of Legislatures, this map depicts state cannabis programs across the United States. In the darkest green states are where medical and recreational use is accepted, and solely in the North Mariana Islands in this yellow color is their recreational use accepted, but there is no comprehensive medical program. In the next shade of green, in states like Pennsylvania, New York, and Minnesota, are medical use accepted, and there's comprehensive programs structured for that, but no recreational use is allowed. With the classification of a Schedule I drug how are these citizens in line with the federal law? As complicated as it is, in 2013, the Department of Justice issued a statement pertaining to this issue. While marijuana falls under the Controlled Substance Act, which prohibits the distribution, cultivation, and possession of marijuana, the federal government will not interfere in situations with police enforcement if citizens are in line with their state regulations and state lines.
This is a picture of Administrative Law Judge Francis Young. In 1988, Mr. Young tried to change the classification of marijuana to a Schedule II drug or below, which would allow medical use and medical research to occur. Unfortunately, though, Mr. Young's idea was rejected by the court. Another step in the right direction was in 1999. In 1999, a study was done on the relationship between medical marijuana and those with AIDS wasting syndrome. This study found that medical marijuana increases the appetite of those with AIDS wasting syndrome, proving the FDA wrong when it states that medical marijuana has no medical value.
When discussing the future of legislation in America with medical marijuana, it is important to understand and recognize the process that it goes through. With 68% of independents, 76% of Democrats, and 51% of Republicans supporting medical marijuana legislation, or marijuana legislation as a whole, the future lies solely with the voters. This goes to show that legislation of cannabis is not just a red or blue state matter, but pertains more to the promised agenda that each politician gives at the beginning of their campaign. In regards to the infamous 2020 election season, marijuana was a discussed topic among many candidates. As CNBC producer Morabito explains, every legislative action on the ballot that pertained to marijuana legislation passed. This suggests that with the recent approvals, again, it can lie with the voters. The 117th Congress of the United States, composed of the House of Representatives and the Senate, has a split vote between the Democrats and the Republicans. Newly elected Vice President Kamala Harris finds herself to be the tie-breaking vote, and in 2019, she issued a statement stating her support for marijuana legislation.
As more and more research continues to develop from the hemp plant, scientists have found a way to create specific strands of cannabis from a human's DNA using CRISPR. CRISPR is a genetic modification process created by Jennifer Doudna, where scientists would split a double-stranded helix and essentially reprogram it. A single human's biochemistry is very difficult to understand and match a drug to that is very little research done. If marijuana can be declassified from a Schedule I drug, more advancements could be made in medical advancements. Medical marijuana overall needs to be declassified from a Schedule I drug for the benefits of humanity, so more and better research can be done to assist the development of the hemp plant and to help justify its ability to be used in medical practice. Consistently, the decriminalization would help doctors prescribe medical cannabis instead of opioids because they would have better knowledge and effects of medical marijuana. Thank you.
Angela, give one specific way that your thinking changed as a result of learning about Tibby's findings.
Tibby's findings helped me change my thinking because she went more in depth on the scientific lens, which helped me connect to why medical marijuana was actually used in the history, so like in 1830 when it was discovered.
Okay, thank you. Natalia, reflecting on Tibby and Angela's work, which one had the greatest impact on your overall understanding of the problem that you guys identified?
Tibby's work on CRISPR definitely furthered my idea on why marijuana should be declassified, because it's showing instances where even though they're, like, with the limited research that they can be doing right now, such advancements like this should be happening and they should continue as time progresses.
Okay, thank you. Tibby, describe an argument from one of your peers' individual reports that made you think differently about the team's solution.
One point that Angela brought up in her paper was like the nitty-gritty little details of like government facts and legislation facts and stuff. And from those, I'm like, maybe we shouldn't be legalizing marijuana, and we should actually be doing the opposite.
Okay, thank you. Another round of applause. Thank you, ladies.